We don't scale our businesses alone. We only scale them with the right people. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through a massive announcement, a partnership between ProInsight, the company that I lead, and she who I believe to be the leader in relational real estate, Amy Stockburger. We'll talk more about her here in just a minute. But we're also going to go over the principles of partnering, when to do it, why to do it, and what to be careful that be sure that you don't do that could mess up everything. Stay tuned. This episode is going to be fire. And today, I'm so excited to announce a new partnership with an absolute giant in the real estate industry, Amy Stockburger. So let's just introduce Amy really quickly, because I want you to know a little bit about Amy. But she's become a very dear friend, somebody who regularly is ranked in the top 50 real estate producers in the entire country, anywhere between 400 and 600 homes per year. And by the way, by referral, you guys, that is so unheard of. So truly taking a relationship-based model to the moon. She is the person to do that. So Amy, such a pleasure to have you, not only you here today, but to announce our partnership. So welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Don. And thank you all for your time today. I am so wildly jazzed to join this already very, very, very established and forward-thinking group and company and help service-based individuals build a business that elevates that client experience and do it through referral and build it to a place where you can make it sellable. And we have so much juicy, beautiful, delicious stuff for you guys. I can hardly wait to roll it all out to you guys. So thank you for your time. And I'm really, really excited to be on board with this. I promise we're going to over-deliver every second of it.
Now, on the heels of that massive announcement, I want to remind you of this principle, that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. However, what they don't tell you is that oftentimes when you go with others, you mess it up even more because you don't understand the principles of partnering. You don't understand the fact that if you try and go far with the wrong people, you don't go anywhere. In fact, you go backwards. So you need to understand these key principles if you really want to partner. Now, trust me, I'm a fan of partnering. I authored a book called The Upstream Model, which is a way for you to grow your referral-based business through strategic partnerships with professionals in other industries, right? So I'm all about this. And the more I move forward in business, the more I realize the power of partnering. You see, I read the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, one of my mentors. And in that book, they teach the concept that once you get to a certain point, right, when you get to a certain place where it's really hard for you to keep procrastinating it, don't beat yourself up. Recognize that that's a place where you're supposed to pass the baton. Now, if you're a track and field fan, like my family is, then you realize this principle. Imagine if you were trying to run a 400 meter, one lap around the track, and you're trying to compete with a 4x100 meter relay team. In other words, 4 guys who all just had to run 100 meters. You would lose every time, right? They've got fresh legs every 100 meters. And so that's just not a fair fight, not a fair race. And so this principle is true in your business as well, is that looking around for people with whom you can partner, and that could be varying levels of partnership. It could even be hiring people. It doesn't have to be giving up equity. But the reality is, if you recognize the part that you're not supposed to be doing and give it to someone who loves that stuff, now you're empowered. Now you're faster and going further than ever before. The reality is this: you're one relationship away from a massive breakthrough. You see, the right joint venture or partnership helps you in at least 3 ways that I can think of right now. Number 1, it helps you to tap into an audience that you did not previously have. It helps you to have capabilities that previously you didn't have. And it allows you to borrow trust, credibility, and distribution that you also did not have. Now, you could spend your life trying to get this credibility, trying to get these capabilities, trying to get this distribution, and the reality is eventually you'd get there. But what if you were to partner? What if you were to partner with somebody that already had that? Imagine how much further you could go together. And that is why partnerships are essential for exponential growth. Now, the next important principle we need to look at is with whom you should partner, which will also tell you with whom you should not partner. Because it really doesn't matter if you have the right why and the right what and lovely personalities. If you don't have someone who is aligned with you, if you don't have the right who, it's going to mess up everything. So it's super important that you're aligned. And there's a couple of ways. Number 1, from a core value standpoint. Like, what's super important to you, right? What is it that you value the most? And I think it's really okay to ask people these questions. Is when you're building this business, our business together, our joint venture together, what is the outcome that you're trying to achieve? And then you might even ask of like, what are you willing to contribute and sacrifice in order to get there? And what is it that you're not willing to sacrifice and contribute to get there, right? This will tell you a lot about someone. And by the way, if they don't have the answers or they're not willing to work to come up with them or even say, let me think about that and get back to you, that's a really good sign that this might not be the right partnership. You want people who are open, who are curious, who say, I've never really thought about that. I don't know the answer to that, but let me think about it. Let me get back to you, right? That's a really great answer, by the way, right? Because people can just tell you what they think that you want to hear. But more important is to have somebody who's thoughtful enough to say, that's a good question. Tell me about yours in return, right? You actually want someone who's curious about you. Because it's not very fun to have a partner who only is interested in talking and not interested in also hearing and listening in order to produce a fit going both ways. Because the reality is, in partnership, there's going to be joint sacrifice. There's some things you're going to have to give up, and there's some things that they're going to have to give up. And if there's no signs of that being built into their core values, the reality is this is going to work out, right? And you're probably going to regret the fact that you did this. So that conversation of really getting to know each other, getting to know what is the outcome really that we're trying to achieve together, that's where conversations happen. That's where people really come together in true alignment. Now, in a previous video, which we'll link below, we talk about the positioning matrix, where you identify on a grid of 16 boxes what your focus, like where you fit in the marketplace when it comes to price, when it comes to being more relational versus transactional. Going through that exercise is a great way for you to determine your own positioning and then ask questions that identify if they're around there as well. Again, we'll link that below. Now, the other component of choosing the right who is having complementary skills. What you don't want is someone who has the exact same skills as you, right? That just doesn't work very well, because what do you need each other for? You already have that, okay? But what is important is for you to have skills that are complementary, not contradictory, right? Where one person's super transactional and they're really good at cold calling when you're trying to build a relationship-based business. Like, that's contradictory type skill sets. What you want is complementary skills, right? In the sense that you're both positioned, you're both working towards the same goal, but one person might be really good at public speaking and one might be really good at creating economic models, right? For me and my business partner, Dawn, that's exactly what we've uncovered. Is I'm very good at presenting, simplifying the ideas and communicating them to a larger audience, whereas Don's brilliant about creating the ideas. He's the visionary. So together we complement each other very, very well. Now, the other component of choosing the right who is to identify what somebody has built, what track record of success that they've had. And what's even more telling is to identify if they've been a part of building a community. Because you might build a product, but that's not very telling about you. But if you build a community, it means that someone has built culture. They've actually instilled values into other people and attracted more and more of those people towards you. So looking at the communities that they're involved in, more importantly, the communities that they've helped build, will be essential for you in choosing the right partner. Now, the last component of this I want to talk about is how to actually make it happen. Now, my business partner, Don, has taught me, ever since he and I partnered together, the importance of booking a meeting from a meeting. In other words, every time you're meeting with someone, book the next meeting. What happens is you start to build a real relationship. Anytime you're creating a partnership, it's important that you actually have a real relationship. If it's just transactional, one will drop the other, one will let the other one down. But if there's a relationship, it's stickier and people have more accountability and they carry more responsibility into that and not letting the other person down. So take the time to develop the relationship. Next, solve for alignment, not equity. In other words, rather than go into a conversation about what you want, what I want, it's more about what are we going to build together, right? If we're down here and we're complementary and we keep talking about what we want, that's not going to get us closer together. What we really want to talk about is what's the shared vision that we're trying to create and how can we do that better together, right? That's the conversation you want to have. And then you want to co-create the future. It's not just about one person casting out a vision and saying, do you want to be a part of this? It's about co-creating. It's about creating it together. Because when you create it together, now there's ownership. Now there's buy-in. Now it feels like both sides have contributed to creating this unique thing, and both sides now have a unique part in that. That's what partnership looks like. If you can't create that during the initial visionary stages, you definitely aren't going to be able to create it during the product design and delivery and overall company growth phases. So take the time to co-create that initial vision together and see how it goes. See if you can actually work with this person, and if you're in complete alignment with how much you want to put towards this, how much effort you want to put towards it, and what ultimately you're trying to achieve in the outcome. Now, as we wrap up, I just have to tell you, I am near giddy about the partnership that we've created with Amy Stockburger. Everything that I shared with you is what we did in order to create this partnership. This is what we went through, and we realized that every time we spent time with her and her amazing husband, that we just liked them more and there was more alignment. Now, it doesn't mean to say that it was easy. Like, we were coming from different angles to try and solve the same problem, right? That's what was intriguing to us. But there was part of that was hard. We had to give up some things, right? Not just equity, but we had to give up like what we thought was the right thing. And we listened to each other, and we heard each other. And over time, we began to develop something new and different and better together because of each other. Like, we could not have developed and designed what we're now designing without the help of Amy. And likewise, she feels the same way with that about us. So that's the beautiful part of this. And again, what we're going to do together at ProInsight is absolutely amazing. And if you might be asking yourself, maybe it's time for me to collaborate in my industry. Maybe it's time for me to collaborate with other professionals. Maybe it's time for me to acquire another professional's business, which, by the way, all these things are something really special that we're creating at ProInsight to make all that easier. We're all about partnerships, right? Not just with our company, but with your company, helping you to scale faster and actually create a transferable asset through the power of collaboration, through the power of partnerships. If you're interested in learning more about that, down in the comments below, you'll see links to learn more about ProInsight. Thanks so much for tuning in. If this has been helpful to you, be sure and subscribe and hit the little bell notification so you don't miss what we've got coming, because we got lots of really, really fun stuff coming. Talk soon.